How's it going, guys, and welcome back to BL3's Forgotten, a series where I take a look at underused and not often talked about pieces of gear to determine whether or not they deserve to be remembered within the modern meta of the game or should be left behind and forgotten. And today we are taking a look at the Stauros Burn. If you'd like to farm the Stauros Burn for yourself, you're going to fast travel over to the Cankerwood on Xylurgos and make your way along and all the way to the end where you will find a save station right in front of the Wendigo's arena. Jump on down, kill the Wendigo, and hopefully get yourself the Stauros Burn. The Stauros Burn is a legendary COV assault rifle locked to incendiary damage and able to roll with 1, 2, or 3 projectiles per shot for 1, 2, or 3 ammo per shot respectively. Every time you repair the Stauros Burn, you have a chance to combust, lighting the player on fire for the duration of the combustion and providing some unique benefits to the Stauros Burn. Every shot while combusted is a guaranteed critical hit, which interestingly enough, these do seem to be real crits as they do actually scale off of crit damage. These shots don't consume ammo, your incendiary damage over time effects gain a 50% damage increase, and the weapon's heat slowly increases over time even without firing. So first off, between the 1, 2, or 3 times variants, I would just recommend sticking to the 1 times. The combustion mechanic plays a huge role within the damage of the Stauros Burn, and it's very important that you can actually be in combustion as long as possible. Using the ×2 or the ×3 generates heat way faster, which means while it can knock you into a repair to potentially trigger combustion faster, it will also knock you out of combustion faster. So I suppose it can be seen as more of a high risk, high reward if you play for those really long combustion chains and just hope to constantly be proccing it over and over again. Then I suppose it could be argued that there's a place for ×2 or ×3, but in my experience, it just felt like a significantly more unusable variant, so I'm only really going to be referencing ×1. But with that being said, how is this weapon? Well, it's about average at best, and even then, that is definitely being a little bit generous. When you first pick up the Burn, it just really doesn't feel that amazing. It's locked to incendiary, and it doesn't really feel better than most purple COV assault rifles. And that is simply because it's literally not. The Rat-a-Tatter, which is the non-unique weapon that the Stauros is based off of, has around the same damage while averaging a higher fire rate. You can also get them in elements that aren't incendiary. So in its base form, just as it is, it's a pretty fucking shit weapon. Yet, despite how negative I'm being on this weapon, I would overall rate it as being a pretty okay weapon, and that's simply because, while normally it's not anything too amazing, when combusted, this thing is fucking cracked. Simply put, busting makes it feel good. Unfortunately though, that bust happens abruptly and is incredibly short. I'm sure we've all been there, we all know the feeling. And so even when it's good, it's just a brief little flash in the pan and then you're back to nothing. However, these combustions can actually chain back to back, and you can have this thing feel really good for a pretty extended period of time, but it's luck-based. And getting these really good and long chains of it do happen more often than you might think. But no matter what, you do eventually still hit this wall where it's just you're right back to using a underpowered Rat-a-Tatter. So it does make this gun a very difficult one to say whether it's good or bad. I think it's just it has its times where it's good, it has its times where it's bad. It's really gonna come down to personal preference if you like playing around that gamble or not. Now the self-dot that it applies isn't insanely high damage, but it is high enough damage to be threatening once it gets through your shield, especially so if you don't have any good sustain, making it pretty much unusable for flak. But I mean, with that, it's flak. Fucker can already turn any gun into the Stauroses without doing a Human Torch cosplay. And something else that I ran into while doing the recording for Amara, not that it's an Amara specific thing, but that will be where you see this happen, is that the heat management of this gun, while not being any different to managing heat with any other COV, the difference is managing it is actually detrimental to using the fucking Stauroses, which to me just feels really bad, as managing heat with COV is something that has kind of just become ingrained in using them for me at this point. Most of the time I'm doing it without thinking about it, and that's what happened in the Amara footage. I was doing it without thinking about it, and I was like, why does this feel so much worse than it did previously? And it took me until like halfway through to realize, oh, it's because I'm not combusting. So I had to like kind of undo my muscle memory of playing with COVs to effectively use the Stauroses, which wasn't really something I was a fan of. If I'm gonna use a COV, I'd like to actually make use of the COV's manufacturer gimmick and actually be rewarded for playing around it well. Now, there is a pretty big and obvious synergy here with the Stauroses, and that's being with the elemental projector, which offers you a huge amount of increased elemental damage of whatever element you are afflicted with. Stauros's, when combusted, automatically applies incendiary to you, and that does count for the incendiary damage increase. So using this with an elemental projector definitely does make it feel a hell of a lot better. And while the downtime I do think is already worth it for the power that the Stauros's has, with an elemental projector it just feels even better. But overall, I can't really say the Stauros's Burn is a bad weapon because it really isn't. The incredibly average unbusted power is pretty fair for how strong it gets during combustion, especially when you're using that elemental projector. But personally, I still just find it too inconsistent for my liking. There are times when you get lucky and chain like 4 or 5 busts in a row, and again, it's not that uncommon, but there's still so many times when that just doesn't happen. And very often, I just personally cannot stand having downtime in a weapon that I have no control over. But I do definitely still respect the Stauros's, and it was a pretty fun weapon to use. It's a very unique idea, and it's really cool to have those auto crits just tied to an actual weapon itself. And there are definitely times with it when you just feel like an absolute fucking monster chewing through anything in front of you with it. I do also appreciate the pretty much inbuilt synergy with the elemental projector, which just feeds into that even more. I can fully acknowledge that there are some people that are gonna absolutely love using this thing, so if it does seem like something you'd be into, definitely give it a go. But that's gonna about do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, definitely consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, all that. I'll be live right after this video goes up right here on YouTube and also over on Twitch, where there will be a link to down in the description below, along with just below that a link to my Discord server where you can come and join and hang out. But with that all being said, I hope to see you guys in the next one.